Hello, everybody. Hi, Julia, Ed, Pedro. I see you guys are joining. Thank you so much. Just going to wait for everyone else to join us. There's a few more coming in. Thank you so much. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might be. Just going to give a few minutes just for the rest of the people to join. Hi, Lindsay, Brendan, Tracy, Sam. Thank you so much for joining, guys. Right, so I know we've been doing a few of these webinars over the past sort of couple of weeks. I know a lot of it has been focused on Lightroom tutorials and things like that, but I wanted to chat a little bit more about sort of the traveling side of things. And I know even though we can't travel now, once this ban is lifted, hopefully this webinar will just give you a better idea of the different seasons on safari and maybe what would suit you best. All right, so I think pretty much everyone is in. Hi, Lindsay, how's it going? Right, so let's get straight into it. So to start off, there really isn't a bad time to go on safari. You know, we've, luckily with us being guides, you know, we've guided at lodges permanently. We've seen all the different seasons on safari and even at different destinations. But I'm gonna, instead of breaking this up into like summer, winter, spring, and fall and so forth, I'm going to sort of break it down into maybe a couple of months at a time because the safari seasons can change pretty drastically in a relatively short period of time. So I'm going to start off with like January and sort of work our way through, maybe doing it like a couple of months at a time. To start off with January, and I'll share a few photos with you guys just to give you a better idea of what it looks like as well. Starting off with January, I think a lot of people see it, I'm talking Southern Africa now, see it as the rainy season in South Africa. And it is, it's our summer months. The majority of the areas do have summer rainfalls. But it's important to understand that, first of all, you've got amazing weather, you know, being summer, it's nice and hot. But usually the rains will only come late in the afternoon. So traditionally, it builds up during the day. And then late afternoon, you get these thunderstorms, which can be incredible to watch. You get lightning strikes and all sorts. But also this time of the year is generally very green. So from a photography point of view, you've got beautiful contrasts. And it's also one of my favorite times, or one of my favorite things about this time of the year is that's traditionally when your impalas will start lambing. They'll start having their babies sort of during the summertime. So you get a lot of baby impalas and things running around. I'm going to show you guys quickly just on my screen, just sort of what that January period looks like. Right, so I presume, I hope that you can all see this. Let me just make this nice and big. So like I was saying, baby impalas this time of the year, fantastic. It really adds something different on safari. And as you can see, the vegetation is nice and green, it's lush, and so beautiful contrast, you know. Also from a predator point of view, these animals, I mean, look at that beautiful green background. These lions in particular would generally tend to move on the roads quite a lot more, sort of during the rainy season, right? So as we know, cats in general, I mean, they have adapted in certain areas where there's more water, but generally during this time of the year, they would try and avoid walking through that long grass. So mainly walking on the roads. It's also a great opportunity. You can get see some fresh tracks. So it'd be really, really beautiful time of the year. Once again, you can see lovely green backgrounds. So photographically, this really, really is special. Other camps, you can see the vegetation nice and thick, nice and lush. So South Africa, Botswana, really, really good areas in Southern Africa to go on safari. Some of the camps in South Luangwa and like Mana Pools, for example, they close during this time of the year purely because of the soil types that they have around them. There's a lot of black cotton soil. So unfortunately, like Mana Pools in South Luangwa and like places like Lower Zambezi, unfortunately, is not accessible during this time of the year. But definitely South Africa and Botswana, very, very good options for that sort of January period. Okay, now I'm going to talk about this in a second. Sorry, let me just go out of this here quickly. Right, so cheetahs, February, March time, the Serengeti, absolutely amazing. It's a lot of you guys have heard about the Great Migration, and often we get people saying, you know, when is the best time to see the migration, or they would like to see the Great Migration. Now, it's important to understand that the migration happens all year round, right? So it's a continuous circle, but during different times of the year and different areas, you can experience different types of, or different forms of the migration. Now, during this February-March period, in the southern Serengeti area, there's a little area called Ndutu, so N-D-U-T-U, and it's in the Ngorongoro Conservation Area. Now, what happens is these herds of wildebeest would come into that plains of Ndutu, and they go and carve on those open plains. The reason for that being is there's a lot of salts in the soil. So naturally, the mothers, you know, during that sort of birthing or calving period, they need those minerals to help with the calving, and also for those little calves. You know, it's a great way to start life with all those nutritions. Now, imagine you have hundreds of thousands of wildebeest, you know, on those plains. You get them calving. This naturally also attracts a lot of predators as well. So cheetah in particular, as you can see here, probably one of the best places I reckon to see cheetah is in that Serengeti area. So especially in Ndutu, and then also around Golkopi's closest sort of central and then eastern Serengeti. Fantastic place to see them. And obviously now with all those baby wildebeest around, these predators get active and they're attracted to this. So it can be a bit of a roller coaster to witness, but it is a fantastic experience. There again, you can see cheetah, wide open spaces. You can see it is still pretty green, but you know, it's such beautiful wide open grasslands that the visual is still fantastic. That greenery just helps also with a lot of the contrast from a photographic point of view. So definitely February, March time that's when you want to be in that Serengeti, especially southern Serengeti side. I still believe maybe, apart from possibly maybe the Great Migration in Kenya side around July, August, which we'll get to later on, this is probably your best opportunity to witness predators on the move and on the hunt. Okay, that's the marsh area. It's actually not too far from the camp that we stay. Big herds of wildebeest concentrating on those open plains and those water sources. Okay, great opportunity. Lots of herds sort of close by, often bundled up. So fantastic photographic opportunities of both zebras and wildebeest. There you can see one wildebeest in between a herd of zebras. So I'll show you a few examples here. There are many possibilities of actually filling your frame with these animals just because they're so densely concentrated together. There you can see again, lush green vegetation, massive herds gathering. Sorry, apologies for that. Seems like the Wi-Fi can be dodgy. So do apologize for that. Let me seems like with the whole lockdown thing, everyone is on Wi-Fi. Right, so bear with me. I'm going to try and hopefully this internet connection stays okay. Okay, so this is now the February-March period, as I mentioned. Fantastic time for the migration, especially from sort of the calving side of things in the Serengeti. So the southern Serengeti in Dutu area, really good. Okay, so let me just go out of this, and then let's go down to sort of April, May, and June. So for me, this is one of the fascinating times of the year. It changes very quickly. So from about April, you'll immediately notice the mornings start getting a little bit cooler, and the bush starts sort of drying out a lot more. So naturally now animals, instead of like during the rainy season, you know, there's puddles everywhere. So the animals tend to spread out a bit more and drink even from puddles in the road. Whereas April, May, it starts drying out. So these animals will then concentrate more on the permanent water sources, your big lakes, big rivers. So it happens so quickly. It's an amazing transition to be a part of. So in Southern Africa, again, South Africa, great option for that. East Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, that's when they start experiencing some of their bigger rains, or longer rains. So it's still not a bad time to go, but I would recommend maybe going in sort of a little bit later on in the year, or then that February-March period. Also fantastic place, Botswana. So from about April, like right about now, this time of the year, the floods start coming in. So it's quite a strange thing to try and comprehend. You know, once the bush starts drying out, the rains come in. So naturally, that's because they get the rains from Angola. So further north, and then it takes a few months for the water to get there. So the Okavango Delta, fantastic place to experience during this time of the year. It's also, I'm going to share a few examples with you guys. It's also a fantastic time to start walking safaris. So a lot of these places, Mana Pools, South Luangwa, the ones that I mentioned that are closed during that first 3 months of the year, they will start opening up. So if you want to do walking safaris, fantastic time of the year. It's not so hot anymore, so you can really do like full days out walking and experiencing the bush. It's still got nice greenery. It's still nice and lush in certain areas, but the leaves in the trees start thinning out quite a bit. So as you can see, jackets start coming on, and it starts getting a little bit cooler. But it also means that the animals, especially your predators, also can become more active throughout the day. Okay. Again, this is also Mana Pools, the Cheetah area. Like I mentioned, great time of the year to do walking safaris. There's not many insects around, and the temperatures are nice and cool. Yeah. Again, your typical Mana Pool scene. Have a look and see how the vegetation, and this also, I mean, this varies from year to year. So if you have massive rainfalls, obviously then it will take a little bit longer for that bush to start thinning out. This was 2 years ago, so they didn't have a lot of rain. So you could see naturally the bush started thinning out very quickly. All right. Again, a lot of the big water holes. This is one of the lagoons in Mana, which is where where Mana Pools gets its name from. The 4 pools. This is just a circle pool, and you can see still a lot of water around there. So this becomes a sort of a highway for animals as the year sort of as it gets drier and drier throughout the year. Okay, again, look how dry it is here. This year in particular was very dry in Mana Pools. Okay. Also the Okavango Delta, like I mentioned now, starts getting into flood. Have a look at how beautiful that is. This is like a helicopter ride. So if you do a Botswana safari, especially April, May, even June, I would highly recommend go on a helicopter flip over the Okavango Delta. It is a fantastic place to view from the air. And I believe this year they got massive floods coming in already. So this year and next year will be fantastic times to visit the Okavango Delta. Again, beautiful. A lot of these little islands. And Botswana is very unique, and unlike any other safari destination where you've obviously got the land-based activities, But you can also now, when the floods start coming in, you can start doing the boat trips, which is fantastic from a bird life point of view. And also mokoros, which I'll show you a few photos now. That's done by little dugout canoes. Okay, so amazing experience, super, super peaceful. The temperatures during this time of the year, sort of April, May, a little bit sort of chilly in the evenings and early mornings. So temperatures maybe getting to about 14, 15 degrees Celsius. But then during the day, it still warms up quite nicely, up to about sort of 25 to 28 degrees Celsius. So during the day, it's still very nice and very comfortable. Again, with the floods, wild dogs, you get lions in certain areas. If you go sort of places like Duba Plains, lions are known to swim through those channels. The wild dogs absolutely love it. So with this flood that comes in, it just adds a whole nother dynamic to the whole area. You can still see still nice and green in certain areas. Once again, this just also again depends on how much rain they had during the rainy season and also how big the floods were. Okay, so this is like I mentioned, you've got two types of ways of going onto the water. You can either do a motorboat like this, which this enables you to get a little bit closer to hippos, crocodiles, things like that. Also some bird life. Again, beautiful, and it's on these narrow channels, so you're not going on this massive lake. It stays interesting as you cruise through, meander through these little channels going through here. That's a little mokoro dugout canoe. Now, traditionally, they used to use wood for this. So they chop mainly sausage trees that are used for these mokoros. Lately, they've been doing more fiberglass, obviously just to protect the environment. So a fantastic way to experience the Okavango Delta. You see you'll have a guide at the back that's got a big pole, and you generally mokoro in very sort of shallow waters. You're not trying to encounter hippos and crocodiles, obviously. It's more the smaller things, and it's extremely peaceful way of experiencing the Delta. Okay, you can see now also as you get to sort of May and June, a lot of the trees start losing their leaves and start sort of opening up a lot more. And so naturally that means you get a little bit less distractions in the faces of the animals. Okay, again, a lot more sort of clear skies. So you don't really have those stormy clouds that you would in the rainy season. So from a cloud or from a sky point of view, the skies can often appear a little bit sort of more boring during the winter months. But then in the evenings, you've got clear skies. So if you enjoy astrophotography, definitely that sort of May, June period is a fantastic time to experience that. Okay, it's also a great time for your nocturnal species that start coming out. So this was at Tswalu in South Africa. And it's probably, for me, I believe, the best place to see nocturnal animals coming out during the day. So generally in our summer months, you see these animals maybe like 10, 12 at night, whereas now in the winter, it starts getting cooler. So you do get the opportunities to see them more during the day. Okay, so that's a bat-jet fox, meerkats, very, very cool. And you can see also the vegetation starts thinning out. So like I mentioned, there's still a bit of greenery around, but it's not as thick and lush as those first two photos that I showed you. So it's a beautiful transition. Cheetahs especially, great time of the year to photograph them. They're active, also with like the days not being that hot, you can have them active a lot more. Oryx, you see how that bush is starting to change now. You get a bit of sort of brown vegetation in between the green stuff. This is Madikwe Game Reserve. I just had to put that in there. Amazing moment we had a few years ago. But also just again, depending on how much rain they've had during that year, the grass can still be quite long, but it starts thinning out, starts drying out quite a bit more. This was actually the first time that this particular cub was seen. I mean, as you can see, very, very young. This is the Madikwe Game Reserve, like I said. Spectacular moment. So again, a great time of the year to be on safari. You can spend the whole day out in the field just because the days are so nice and cool. It's not hot at all. In fact, the mornings, when you get to sort of that June period, it starts getting very, very cold. And what a lot of the camps will do is they'll give you little hot water bottles that they'll put in the vehicle with a blanket for you. While we're on that topic, I want to tell you guys a funny story on hot water bottles. So when I managed the camp in Botswana, like I said, you do these hot water bottles in the vehicles, but they'll also put it in the rooms for you. That's a lovely surprise. You get into this cold bed and you feel this sort of warm, furry thing on your body. It's quite a pleasant surprise, but it is a surprise. So we had in the camps, we had this foghorns, which is for emergencies, right? So if there's a lion that's about to enter your room or something like that, you blow the foghorn 3 times, and you'll have all the sort of staff running towards you, coming to assist. And one night, it was in winter, I think it was about that May-June period, I was just busy closing camp when I heard this foghorn go off 3 times, 3 bursts. And I remember running through, it was one of the rooms close to the end of the camp. Got there, so opened the door expecting the worst possible thing. And this lady sort of looked at me with this massive eyes. And I immediately noticed that the bed was completely soaked. And she said that she got into bed, felt this warm thing on her leg, and got a nail file, actually stabbed this hot water bottle to death. She thought it was an animal in her bed. So if you go on safari during this time of the year, you can expect a hot water bottle. Just be aware of it, and don't think it's an animal in your bed and stab it. All right, so that's just a little story while we're on the hot water bottle topic. And beautiful soft light during this time of the year. This is also a game reserve. Really, really spectacular sight. Again, grass can be long depending on the rains, and there is still enough greenery in there that sort of as the year goes on, that will start fading away. Okay, black rhino, also mainly sort of more nocturnal species, but during these cooler months, you do tend to see these guys quite a bit more early in the mornings and late in the afternoons. Okay, as you can see, grass is still long, but it does provide some nice photographic opportunities as well. It is a bit of a challenge, but I really love that natural look of the animals through the grass. Often if you have a photographic scene that's too open and too clean, it can look almost staged in a way, if that makes sense. So I love this sort of long grass that you get during this time of the year. And a lot of the animals, I'll show you some photos later on, excuse me, a lot of the animals will actually use elevation points to try and see over this long grass. Wild dogs, if you're a wild dog fan, this is the time when they tend to den around about that sort of May, June period. And this is an incredible experience. This was actually in Tswalu also a couple of years ago. And the advantage with this is once you know where the den site is, then it becomes obviously easier to find them, and also gives you the opportunity to spend some quality time with them. Naturally, obviously, with the den site, you don't want to go too close to disturb them. So usually the head guide or the ecologist, they'll put up like markers as sort of the border. But incredible experience to see these guys denning. So if you're looking to see this, then that sort of June period is probably your best time. Of course, something like this, you can't guarantee, but it's the best time of the year to try and find this. Okay. Now to the nocturnal species. So like I mentioned, once again, Tswalu, I think, is the best place to see these nocturnal species. I've had incredible sightings there over the years. This is the aardvark or anteater, ant bear. And these guys generally, during the winter months, from about sort of May, June, they'll start being active quite a bit throughout the day, feeding on those termites, once those termites are active. I see your guys' questions. I'll get back to them as soon as I'm done with these slides, then we can answer a few of your questions. So please feel free to keep them coming. Love the interaction. Also, pangolin. I don't know how many of you guys have seen this in the wild before. And before I got to Tswana, I was guiding for about 10 years. I'd seen one in my life. And then in a space of about 2 years that I was doing relief guiding there, I don't know, it's over 30 of them that I've seen. Really, really incredible creatures. And like I said, once again, Tswalu, without a doubt, the best place to see these guys. So definitely more winter months. So May, June, and then maybe getting in towards July period. Great time to see these guys. Again, another artwork. You see how that vegetation is now starting to lose its greenery. So this was in June, late June. It's starting to lose that greenery. So you're starting to lose a bit of that contrast. Remember those beautiful greens I had in the beginning? You're starting to lose a bit of that contrast, but you're also getting sort of more concentrations of wildlife, especially around water points, which we'll get to a little bit later. Artwork, again, beautiful soft afternoon light. Yeah, I've really had some spectacular sightings of these guys at Tswalu. Okay, so that's nocturnal species. So that's Southern Africa. Like I mentioned, a lot of these you start getting more options now once you start getting into the winter months. So places like I mentioned, Botswana is now by May, June. Floods are well and truly there, so that's a fantastic safari opportunity. South Africa in general, amazing opportunities from a wildlife viewing point of view. East Africa, you've also got quite a few opportunities or options. So if you like, if you want to go gorilla tracking, that sort of June period, fantastic time to go and see gorillas. And also then for the Great Migration, they're starting to head towards that western corridor of the Serengeti. So like from about sort of May, June, you start getting a lot more options. South Luangwa, monopoles, as I mentioned, it's nice and cool during that time of the year. So incredible walking opportunities. I'm just going to see what questions we got here. UC says, looks good. Thank you very much. Path, what place is this? So this is a combination of everything. I think if you're referring to these aardvark and pangolin photos, it's a place called Tswalu. I can try and see if I can type it in here for you. Tswalu. So that's in South Africa, in the Northern Cape. So like a desert type of environment. Fantastic place to go and witness or go and experience during the winter months. Julia, beautiful photos. Thank you so much. Let's see what question you got here. Hi, Johan. So Brennan asks, hi, Johan, are they greatly varied season when it comes to visiting the mountain gorillas? If so, how's it different? Also, do you think it might take longer for that region to open up because of COVID-19? I've heard they're very strict around the gorillas with humans. Yes. Okay. So let's get to seasons of gorillas. There's technically not a bad season to go and do gorilla trekking, but remember they don't really have a winter or a summer, being so close to the equator. So they've got like what they call long rains and shorter rains. So that January, February period is not bad to go and see gorillas. I think that June period is probably what I would go for if I were you. Purely because you can also then combine that with quite a few other destinations. So you can combine that with the Serengeti, or with any Southern African safari, you can combine that. So you don't really just want to go just gorillas, you want to go do something else as well. And even parks in Uganda, there's Murchison Falls, there's Kadepo, there's Queen Elizabeth. So I think that June period is a really, really good time to go gorilla trekking. How long will it take? I think that's anyone's guess at the moment. I do think it will take a little bit longer, purely because of those reasons that you mentioned, with humans carrying those the diseases and being able to transmit it. I'm not sure, Brendan. I think at this particular time, I know there are rumors of airlines testing people before you go on a flight. So obviously, if your temperatures are above the standard temperatures, you can't get onto that flight, which means, if you cleared, then there's no reason why you can't go gorilla trekking. I think it's very uncertain for all of us at this particular moment. I think only time will tell. But yeah, if you wanted to do gorillas, that June period, fantastic. And then, like I said, you can combine it with so many other safari destinations. Kenya is close by, Tanzania is close by. You can even do the coastlines as well. So lots of different options. Okay, I just want to go to another question with Sia. So Paz says, I've been to Sabi Sabi once and I've been to Mara Serengeti a couple of times. Can you please give me your views why someone should visit Sabi Sands over Mara and Serengeti? The only reason I would say is leopard viewing. I think the leopard viewing in the Sabi Sands is truly phenomenal. It doesn't mean that you're not going to see it in the Serengeti or the Masai Mara. But I think as far as leopard viewing goes, fantastic destination. I think it's also, I think the Sabi Sands or South Africa in general is a pretty easy destination for people traveling for the first time. You know, so Africa can be quite a daunting place to come to if you haven't been before. You know, you hear the media tell you about all these scary stories. And I think once you've been to South Africa, you know, the lodges in South Africa are very comfortable, very luxurious. Whereas if you do Tanzania and Masai Mara, look, you still get the amazing sort of luxury camps. But for me personally, I prefer to use the tented camps. I think it's just a better experience for me personally, and for what I'm trying to get my guests to experience. I think a lot of the times, you know, with your camps being too luxurious, you almost lose a sense of the personalized attention, but you also, I feel, you lose a bit of that connection with nature. You often have like big glass windows, and even if a lion was roaring on your doorstep, you wouldn't hear it. Yeah, so for me, I love the tented camps, like a place like our Mara camp or places we use in the Serengeti. You know, if a lion roars or if a leopard walks past your room, you actually hear it breathing, and it's still safe. There's guys walking around at night, and the animals won't get into your kind of space unless you've got a piece of steak under your bed. But that's my personal view on it. Okay. Sorry, we're transgressing here a little bit, but I'm actually enjoying some of this feedback. Okay, where was April to June? Okay, so let's go through that July to September period. So remember, I said in June, you know, you get those wild dog puppies that have the den sites. July, also a great time of the year. And I mean, this could often vary by a few months. I'm just going on sort of the past sort of couple of years experience in this slide. So that July period, those pups are now starting to move out of their den site. It's a fantastic time to view these guys. It's probably one of my favorite animals to view, wild dogs, and especially if they have puppies. You see that interaction between packs, and those pups are extremely inquisitive. They come up to your vehicle, sort of have a look around. I mean, look at those little guys. Super, super cute. And again, July, August, July in particular, very, very cold on most safaris in South Africa. East Africa, not so much, purely because, like I mentioned, they're so close to the equator. So I'm going to start off with Southern Africa. So cold mornings, in places like Madikwe, Tswalu, very, very cold, often dropping below 0 degrees Celsius at night. So a lot of people will come from Canada or wherever and say, you know, we used to minus 15 or 20, whatever. Guys, this is different. When you're driving an open vehicle with that wind chill factor, it gets very, very cold. But the great thing is that you can spend the full days out in the field. And I love this. I love this time of the year, spending full days out, maximizing your time with the animals. And they can also be active throughout the day. Even your nocturnal hunters, like your leopard and lions, can still hunt during the day because the temperatures are nice and cool. Okay. Yes, you do lose. I mean, you can see those guys on a cold morning at Tswalu, all bundled up together, just trying to stay warm. You can see you are starting to lose some of that contrast, that beautiful greenery that you had during the rainy season. So photographically, especially for your lighter animals like lions, cheetahs, it does become very difficult to photograph them in the long grass, but it's still fantastic photographic opportunities. Also, the bush, as I mentioned, gets a lot more sort of open. So yeah, it does make it a little bit easier from a photographic point of view. Again, nocturnal species, this is prime time for them. It's the pangolin once again in Tswalu. And this was actually, it looks darker than what it actually is. This was shortly after sunset. So obviously now your sun sets a lot earlier. So this was just after 6 o'clock in the evening. Again, pangolin during the day. I can't sort of emphasize enough how amazing it is to see these creatures that are nocturnal, to see them during the day. It is a fantastic experience. Okay, now you can see the bushes also from about July, August, September, bush is starting to open up a lot more. This was in South Africa, again, in the Sabi Sands, actually, we were talking about. You can see the leaves, you're getting less leaves on the tree. So the trees are just a lot more open, photographically becomes a lot easier. Okay. So now your seasonal water holes, by July, August, your seasonal water holes would have sort of dried up, which forces the animals to come to the permanent water sources, mainly your rivers and your big lakes. And naturally, of course, once these general game animals come down, your predators, they tend to follow. Okay. Elephants, they love having a swim during this time of the year as well. And then, as you can see, the same river as where the zebras were drinking. This was the Buteti River in Botswana. Fantastic place, predator and prey action. This is in Kruger, southern Kruger, so you can see how dull that vegetation becomes. The lines almost blend in, so photographically it does become very tricky. Look how that vegetation has changed. So those photos I showed you in the beginning of the male lions, same area, different time of the year. So I would really encourage you guys, even if you've been to the same place numerous times, try and go there at different times of the year because you will get a different experience. Okay. Once again, cheetahs, the vegetation, this is actually a great time of the year for these predators to hunt as well, purely because they blend in so well. You also get beautiful light during this time of the year, like I mentioned, clear skies, so not really a lot of clouds building up. As you can see there, no clouds to speak of. So there is a bit of a downside to this. It is nice to get those big dramatic clouds that you get in the summer months. But yeah, game viewing is really, really special during this time of the year. The big concentrations of wildlife at waterholes. This is Chitaki Springs in Zimbabwe, so very close to Mana Pools. Wild place, man. If you go there during the dry months, you can really expect anything. Okay, so again, Mana Pools, dry, and also now getting towards that August time. A lot of these albida trees start carrying the pods, which is what the elephants are after. So it becomes like popcorn for them. Yeah, absolutely love it. Great time of the year to go to Mana Pools, that sort of July, August period. It's still not that hot. The bush is dry, the water holes are dry. So like those big pools I showed you, the animals will concentrate around there. And also, like I mentioned, the temperatures are very comfortable to do walks. So that's when you start seeing these elephants going up on their hind legs, those famous photos that you've seen on social media. Okay, you can see a lot of these water holes, like I mentioned, starting to dry up. So animals tend to concentrate a lot more around there. Yeah. Dust is fantastic during this time of the year. As it gets drier, this was an amboseli. So that August time, beautiful time to capture animals having dust baths like these elephants. I mean, you can see there, just the wildebeest walking in amboseli. There literally is just that puff of dust as they move along. So this you only get sort of during the dry seasons, obviously. Now, once you get the big rains, everything becomes lush and green. there's not as much dust in the area. Okay, guys, feel free to fire away with your questions. Keep them coming. I'm gonna answer them as soon as I get through all of these slides. But please feel free to keep them coming. Right, then of course, right about that end of June, July period, that's when East Africa really starts kicking off, and it becomes a very busy time for us at Wild Eye. That's when our Mara camp starts opening up. And this was in that July period last year, I think, last year or the year before, in the Masai Mara. And again, the length of this grass, that just depends how much rain they've had during the rainy season. By the sounds of it, this year they've had quite a bit of rain, which means the grass will be nice and long. Hopefully that also means that the wildebeest will stay around for a bit longer. But here you can see, the grass is very long. If these lines are lying down, it's pretty much impossible to see them. So that is the downside of getting there before the wildebeest have arrived. But photographically, I love photographing these lines through the long grass. I think it gives a very natural feel to it. The Masai Mara really during this off-peak time is amazing. That sort of June, July period, a lot less vehicles in the Masai Mara, and you also get cheaper rates going into the camps because it's not what they call peak season. I've often had better predator viewing during this off-peak time than sort of in the peak time, as they call it. Really, really incredible. There is no bad time to be in the Masai Mara, that I can promise you. You still see everything is nice and green again. You get beautiful contrast. And the predator viewing in the Mara, remember the predators, they don't migrate with the wildebeest and the zebras. They stay there. So when those wildebeest and zebras are not in the area, they would actually become more active. They now have to look for food. Whereas, once those wildebeest have arrived, it's basically just like almost swatting flies. They just look for the injured or the weak. So personally, I love going to the Masai Mara during that sort of July period. Okay, again, cheetahs, long grass, beautiful. And you see, because the grass is so long in that area, they often use termite mounds, even climb trees sometimes, just to scan the open plains, often looking for prey. You also see other antelopes like topi. They'll also generally stand on these termite mounds just to try and sort of get a bit of elevation to scan the surroundings. So you often see lions, even cheetah, leopard, use these sort of vantage points to look for their prey. I've had some of my best leopard viewing in the Masai Mara during that off-peak time, that June, July period. And on most of these occasions, it was just our one or two vehicles there. Purely because everyone thinks, the Masai Mara, you have to go there during migration time. Guys, not at all. I promise you, I can show you the information on these if you don't believe me. Sorry, let me just, that was 11th of July last year. It's a fantastic time to go to the Masai Mara. It really, really is. Like I mentioned, cheaper rates, and also a lot less vehicles going in that time of the year. Okay, this is also right outside our camp, outside our Mara camp, Wild Eye Mara camp. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Then as you get to, this is a difficult one to say, so don't record me for giving these specific dates, but generally, historically, July, August, that's when the migration starts in the Mara Triangle side. So that's when you start getting these dramatic river crossings. Now again, guys, it's all dependent on rain. So a lot of people said, I want to book a week in the Masai Mara. Which week is the best? It is almost impossible to say, unless if you can sort of book a flight like 2 days before the time, then we can sort of phone you and say, listen, the herds are here, catch a flight and come in. Otherwise, it is virtually almost impossible to say. Generally, sort of over, we run it like August, September, October as the peak months. So say in those 12 weeks, you stay 6 nights at a time, I can say you're almost, and I say almost because you're dealing with natural animals, you're almost guaranteed of seeing a crossing. The numbers, that's just luck of the draw. You might see 1,000 animals cross, you might see 100,000 animals cross. But generally, from about that sort of July, August, up to about October period, that's when you start getting these dramatic river crossings. And it is spectacular to witness, especially when there's zebras in there as well. There's adrenaline, the sounds, the smells that go with it. Truly is amazing, and it's something that has to be on your bucket list. Okay. As you can see, the photographic opportunities are endless with something like this. Close-ups, wide, jumping in, croc action. There's one taking a leap of faith. It is a spectacular thing to witness. It really, really is. This is actually so easy to capture these images. You really don't have to do anything. Also, obviously, massive herds. So this is them coming on their way towards the river, where they often then stop and pause for a few seconds, sometimes even a few hours before they start crossing in. So East Africa, for me, I think it's an absolute must over that sort of July, August, September period. Yeah, like I mentioned, croc action. It is what it is. It's not easy to witness, but yeah, it becomes absolute feeding frenzy for animals during that time of the year. Let's just see some of these questions here. Is a certain time of the year you can get closer to animals? So that's what Brendan asked. Therefore, changing the lenses I would bring. Brendan, I think that's more dependent on the reserve that you go to. Let's talk like Masai Mara, for example. I don't think you're going to get closer to animals in July or August than you would in September, October, if that makes sense. I think a lot of these places, so in the Mara Triangle, there are certain places that we can go off-road. So everything, if you look at the main road, everything that goes towards the river, we're not allowed to go off-road. And then everything that goes sort of away from the river, we can, obviously using a bit of common sense. You're not going to go off-road just for anything. And the guys are very responsible in doing that. So I think if you want to get closer to animals, a lot of the reserves in South Africa would be a good option. And most of the parks allow you to go off-road. So you generally can get very close to animals there. Let's have a chat. If you wanted to go to a particular reserve, we're always happy to assist you from sort of what lenses would work out best for you for that particular reserve. I would usually, I think generally, if you're going to that 400 mil range, 100 to 400, 80 to 400, and then something maybe a little bit wider, like a 70 to 200 mil lens, that should cover most areas in Africa. Once again, it just depends what kind of images you're wanting to create. If you wanted to get close-up portraits, or if you wanted to shoot more animal in environment. So that's a great question, Brendan, and I'm happy to chat to you about this. You're welcome to give me a shout. I think it's very much sort of destination dependent. Tracy says, your photos are stunning. Thank you so much, Tracy. Would love to see painted dogs. Absolutely, they are incredible animals. They really, really are one of my favorites. And then, so we've done that sort of July to September period. Now we get towards October, and I think October is, it's hard to choose a favorite, but I really love this October period. Again, now the bush is starting to get very, very dry. Animals have to come to the water, your elephants. You can see impalas there. So you start seeing different species together. You also start getting temperatures, it starts getting very hot, especially if you're going to places like South Luangwa, Mana Pools. So I've personally, in the last sort of, I think 4 years, I've been going to Mana Pools and South Luangwa during that time of the year. It's my personal favorite. If you can deal with the heat, it is phenomenal viewing. It really, really is. A lot of dust in the air, so your sunsets, your colors stay there for much longer. Super, super sunsets during this time of the year. South Luangwa, one of my favorite places. As you can see, everything comes down to the water. And this again, having that Luangwa River going through there, it's such a massive part of that whole game viewing experience that you generally don't have to wander off too far from the river to be able to get good sightings. Mana pools, fantastic place. You see that grass, that vegetation, that sort of bottom layer is completely gone almost. So a lot of dust available, clean the foregrounds, clean backgrounds. Beautiful time of the year to be in Mana pools. Again, you know, the days are hot, so you are limited. I mean, you can't really do full days walking; you'll dehydrate, and it's hot time of the year. Again, dust in Mana pools. This again, a fantastic time. Remember when we spoke about those wild dogs? Now, sort of by that October period, those puppies are getting a little bit bigger. They're now participating in the hunts. So Mana pool is really, really good for that October time, and so is South Luangwa. Mana pool. So that's just, I mean, dust is just phenomenal in that place. It gets me super, super excited. It really is spectacular. Again, this is in Botswana, in the Kwai region. A lot of dust around. Animals just run on the road, and you get this big puff of dust. Chobe National Park, beautiful place to photograph elephants, and especially during this dry time of the year. You know, they go and swim across the Chobe River. You can actually see some of them have just had a swim, and then they cover themselves with that beautiful beach sand that they have available. So yeah, October, Wangi National Park. So the bush, the wildlife becomes, it's harsh conditions, guys. It's not easy to witness, but for me, it's seeing the strongest like survive. It's animals go into survival mode. So lions in certain areas, this is in Wangi, end up taking down young elephants, something that they don't do throughout the year. You know, so the animals sort of start adapting. It literally becomes survival of the fittest, the strongest survive. You know, the babies, they've got to sort of compete within them, you know, to try and see who gets the best pieces. South Luangwa, great example. This is a place where things just start going haywire. Like I mentioned, everything goes towards the water. Lions will start taking down larger prey, so they'll start taking down hippo, buffalo, young elephants sometimes. Again, it is very hot this time of the year in that Luangwa Valley. If you can deal with the heat, man, the game viewing is phenomenal. All right, again, one young wild dog pup, survival of the fittest, he gets the best scraps. You can see now how harsh this environment is starting to get. Animals do lose condition during this time of the year. It is a difficult thing to witness, but like I mentioned, it's fascinating to see how these strong animals adapt during these dry times. You can see there's little, if any, grazing value for your grass eaters, your grazers. Yeah, you can see that. That grass is so dry, it's like dried out thatch. There's nothing there, but you know, this becomes a fascinating time to observe predators. The trees, there are hardly any leaves around, and a lot of the times, you know, you'll have these sort of clear, open views of leopard or even lions in some reserves. And this is also in Botswana. You see this is what they call mupani trees. During the rainy season, this is like thick. It's like a wall. You can't see through it. But now in that October period, it starts opening up a bit. You can see this. This is a roan antelope, very rare to see actually. Starting to lose a bit of condition over there. Yeah, small little puddles, anything that's left over. A lot of the big water holes, even those water holes now have hardly any water left. So it really becomes a struggle for the animals. There you can see, look at those trees. No leaves on there. A lot of these trees are dead even. So this is, I mean, this is extreme circumstances. So this was last year, I think, where big areas went through massive droughts. Little hyena cub. Wild dogs, again, fantastic time of the year to spend time with them. Those pups are now, as I mentioned, they're getting big. They're starting to join the hunts. And animals are attracted to water holes. So, and this is in the Savuti Marsh. We actually spent, I think it was last year, we spent about 2 days literally just staying at this water hole because everything was coming down there from lions, elephants, general game. and in some cases, even numerous species together. I'll show you a few examples later on. Really, and you know they have to come and drink. The days are so hot. They have to come and drink. The elephants come and drink. So it becomes like a show that unfolds in front of you. Yeah, and there's elephant walking past pride of lions. Look how dry that is. That's one of the water holes in the Savuti Marsh. Like I said, last year was particularly dry. There's severe conditions, but it's amazing these animals adapt. You know, often they would like dig through, dig in the water, dig in the soil to find water. Chobe, elephants crossing through the river. Spectacular place to photograph elephants this time of the year. Getting them swimming, even sometimes submerging their whole body. Also, you know, now coming with bird life, a lot of your migratory birds have started coming in. So these are carmine bee eaters that is one of our focus points during the South Luangwa safari. They start coming in. So a lot of your migratory birds start coming back in again. Animals are on the edge. So because of that water, water's getting less and less. You know, your dominant hippos, they'll start fighting for the main water sources. A lot of the other water sources now have dried up, so they have to stay somewhere. If they stay out of the water, their skin dries out, they lose condition. So it starts becoming a serious battle to see who gets the prime land. Again, South Luangwa, you can see how this Luangwa River is dried out. It becomes survival mode for a lot of the animals, and it's a good time to be a predator and a fascinating time to view the interaction. Okay, then we get to November. Let's just see. I see there's a question here. Okay. My last visit to Masai Mara in September also saw a few leopards. Path, yeah, absolutely. Masai Mara is a fantastic place to see leopard as well. Absolutely. And let's get to November period, November, December. So this is again again in Southern Africa. Summer is back again. The days are hot. The animals are once again still moving towards the water. There is a possibility rather that you can get rain during this time of the year, November, December time. And again, this brings massive relief. You know, I showed you those clips now in October. So in November now, if there's a bit of rain, massive relief. The days are still hot. So elephants, rhinos, even animals like warthogs, they'll sort of get into the water, into the mud wallows, try and cool down. Again, depending how much rain was had that particular year. Luckily, it looks like this year, the large majority of Africa have had good summer rain, so hopefully those water holes will stay a little bit longer. But this is in November. You can see the rains haven't arrived yet, so all those buffaloes congregating around the water holes. If it hasn't rained yet, the bush now will be very, very dry, very brown. Yeah, this is Madikwe. You can see that grass is pretty much gone. There's nothing left there. But now also in November, you start getting those build-up of rain. You start getting those moody skies as you get into the rainy season. So remember I said in January, February, you get those hot days. And then in the evenings, those storms will build up. So this is a classic example. And now compare that to that sort of winter months when you've got those clear skies. These skies during the sort of November, December into the rainy season really become super interesting. This is in the Masai Mara. So still, wildebeest still there that time of the year. Again, depending how much rain was there. But in the past few years, October, November, we've still had wildebeest in the Mara Triangle. Just look at those skies, guys. It is spectacular. It is, but the photos actually don't do it justice. It really is spectacular. You can see now also after the wildebeest, this is in the Mara as well. After the wildebeest have gone through, look how much shorter this grass is compared to sort of that July period. So November, still a fantastic time to do the Masai Mara as well. Zebras and things still around, and the grass is a bit shorter, so photographically a little bit more open, a little bit more easier. Okay, again, you can see grass much shorter, and still a fantastic time to to see predators in action. Okay. Again, just another example of the short grass there. Yeah, it's also, again, our vehicles in the Mara Triangle, very, very short grass. A massive difference. Once those hundreds of thousands or millions of wildebeest have gone through, big difference from a grass point of view. Also, again, Amboseli, great place to combine with the Masai Mara. You get those sort of cloudy buildups, and if it rains, it clears up nicely, and then you get these beautiful views of Kilimanjaro. Often, maybe in the drier months, that sort of May, June period, because of all that dust, it does become quite foggy, and then to get a clear view of Kilimanjaro becomes a little bit difficult. So this time of the year, after good rains, stunning visuals of that beautiful mountain. There's just another example. Okay, and then our last month, December. So a lot of times people don't actually associate Decembers with safaris. People would much rather go sort of towards the coast and things. But I can promise you, it is a fantastic time to do a family safari in South Africa. It's a great time. You can combine it with Cape Town. Cape Town is a fantastic destination during this time of the year. There's a buzz. You can do beautiful wine tours. So there's actually a hell of a lot to do and to combine during this time of the year. It is the start of the rainy season again, so your vegetation will appear nice and green. Yeah, you can see now the bush is much greener. I think this was towards the beginning of December, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 1st of December actually. So green vegetation. Look at that beautiful contrast again, and that again just brings a bit of a relief to the animals once again. You can see massive difference to, and I mean, this is in a space of a couple of months, guys. So the bush really does change very, very quickly. And now you're starting to get more leaves on the trees again. Beautiful green backgrounds. You can see this leopard actually came and had a look at our vehicle. These are my guests in front of me. And this was in Southern Kruger. So now you get those beautiful contrasty backgrounds. It is a fantastic time to photograph. Yes, just showing that contrast. I mean, look at that green vegetation. It's lush. It really is spectacular. Okay, rains. I'm amazed how many times people are afraid to go on safari because of the rains, or actually return back to camp when it starts raining. So photographically, you can create some incredible images when you get the rains presented to you. So here's just one example in Madikwe Game Reserve. You can see it's bucketing down at the back there. There's now puddles are becoming more available. So instead of having to go to those permanent water sources, they can just come to puddles in the road. All right, hippos, they're happy. There's now little puddles that they can go into. They don't have to be in the main river with the big males. And you can again see just lush green vegetation. Okay, once again, beautiful contrast. It really is pretty. Okay, that's pretty much it, guys. So I hope that has just given you a bit of a better understanding on the different seasons. I think we've touched a little bit on the rainy seasons, the dry seasons, what to look out for, and I think I think all of them have got a positive and a negative side. Like if we recap a little bit, if you go towards the rainy seasons or the green seasons, as they call it, there's a good chance that you'll get cheaper rates from the camps. The camps are generally not as busy, so you don't have a lot of people around you. And you also have fantastic green backgrounds to photograph in. If you go generally towards the drier seasons, then you're going to have incredible game viewing, that's for sure. Animals tend to concentrate around the water holes. It is a time when the lodges do become a lot busier. So if you are interested in going to these areas during the peak time, it's vitally important that you book at least, I would say, a year in advance to be able to get to some of these places during that peak time. Okay. So yeah, you will get a few more visitors during this time of the year. You don't have those beautiful green backgrounds that make for that stunning contrast, but you do have that fantastic interaction with animals coming down to the water, and that sort of interaction between predators and prey. Okay, that's it from me. I'm going to quickly open up to a few questions. So Path asks here, your favorite national park in Africa and camp? Wow, that's a difficult one. Sure. Can I mention a couple? I think to just narrow it down to one is very difficult. I think so if I have to name 3 parks, I would say the Serengeti, the Masai Mara, and South Luangwa. I think those 3 parks are my favorite. Purely, I think from the Masai Mara and the Serengeti point of view, I love those vast open plains. I think it's beautiful photographically, and yeah, I just love photographing animals in that particular environment. South Luangwa, just because of that wildness. So it gives you that feeling of sort of all traditional Africa, if that makes sense. Wild place, anything goes. Favorite camps? Wild Mara camp has to be one of them. I think we've created something extremely special there, and it really does feel like home when you go there. And it also becomes more than just the game being there. I think it's a place where you really sort of feel connected to nature, and also where you leave a little bit wiser from a wildlife point of view, but also the culture that our amazing team have created there. You really do feel appreciated and looked after there. So Wildlife Mara Camp, definitely my favorite for sure. Let's see if there's any other questions. If it's raining, is it less likely to see animals? Charlotte, not necessarily. Look, it does become harder, but what I've found in the past is if you have a sudden change in weather patterns, so if you have a few very hot days, all of a sudden it rains, then animals sort of tend to hide a little bit. But if you have like rains over a few days, a few afternoons, and the animals can only hide for so long, they still have to eat, they still have to move around, and generally, actually, like a lot of your predators, a lot of your territorial animals will then go around and scent mark a lot more. So think about it this way, they scent mark. So think of a male lion, right? He scent marks around his territory to let other males know that this is his, don't come in. Now, once it rains, a lot of that scent is then washed away. So he's got to go and sort of mark it all over again. So I think initially, sort of that maybe for the first day or so, animals might hide for a bit. But other than that, I think there's still fantastic gaming opportunities. Possibly the one downside of it, if you get a lot of rain, which I had in the Serengeti this year, you do become a little bit more restricted on the roads that you can drive. So you can't drive on every single road like you can during the dry periods. But I still think, remember, you first of all, you're paying less to be on that safari in that green season, so you get preferential rates, and you have a lot less people around you. So look, I think if you haven't done it before, I think it's definitely worth exploring. I think it's a beautiful time of the year, and it's also it's nice to see everything being available for the animals. Green vegetation, water's around, food is plentiful. So yeah, it's I really love the green season. I think it's amazing. I'm going to see if there's any other questions. Otherwise, I'm going to slowly start ending this off. I'd like to find out from you guys. I mean, I hope you guys have been enjoying a lot of these webinars that we've been doing. If there's anything that you guys would like us to talk about in particular, feel free to give me a shout now. I'll leave this open maybe for a couple of minutes to see if there's any questions or any suggestions from your side. Sorry, I know I did talk a lot. I can feel my throat's dry. I really hope this is this has helped you guys. You know, like I said, I know we can't travel now, but hopefully, you know, once this thing blows over, then we'll be able to get back to traveling, and I hope that this will have helped you in making your decision. Okay, so it doesn't look like there's any further questions. As I say that, your best sighting and experience. So Path asked, your best sighting or experience you remember in all these years. Oh, that's difficult questions. Actually, I'll try and see if I can find the photo for you guys. But it was when wild dogs were actually taking down a eland. So if you don't like watching blood and guts, then turn away now. But so this particular sighting here, we were actually following this pack of dogs as they were hunting, and we saw them with a group of eland, which chasing a group of eland. And I still confidently said to my guests, "There's no ways they'll take an eland, far too big." Yeah, first mistake when it comes to wildlife. Don't ever say never, because yeah, they took this down right in front of us. So that's probably one of the most amazing sightings I've had. I try and make a conscious effort though to really appreciate any of the sightings that come my way. You know, especially seeing the reaction of the clients. I think it's also a responsibility of mine to also not get blasé about it. You know, to really still show that enthusiasm, and I really do. I really do enjoy still every single sighting. But yeah, that's probably one of the best ones that I've had in quite a while. Okay, so Brendan asked, are there any wildlife viewing and photo opportunities in West Africa? Brendan, we're looking into it. The problem is, safety is one of the problems. Like I would love to go to Gabon. I'd go to Gabon tomorrow if I could, but safety is one of the concerns. And then also, just the infrastructure. If you like to sort of go off the beaten track and wing it, as we call it, I'm happy to do that, man. But you're going to have to understand that you're not going to get the luxuries that you would in South Africa or like in East Africa for that matter. But yeah, I mean, there's fantastic photographic opportunities there. I think it's just the infrastructure in getting to those places that's a bit of a challenge. But hopefully, it's definitely something that I'd like to sort of dig into as time goes on. Charlotte asks, if it gets too hot, can it be damaging to the camera equipment? Charlotte, with a lot of these cameras nowadays, it's totally fine. If you go and leave it out in the sun for the entire day, then yes, you're gonna get a few issues. But I think your camera will be able to deal with as much heat as you would. I photographed in South Luangwa and Mana Pools. I think the hottest day I've had in Mana Pools was 45 degrees Celsius in the shade. So I mean, that's what's in a Fahrenheit. I think it's probably about 100 Fahrenheit, if not more. So very, very hot conditions. The cameras deal with it fine. The laptops, they tend to battle. So often I would encourage guests to rather bring more memory cards, because if you download in that heat, it sounds like that laptop is about to take off. They'd really take a lot of strain during those hot days. But cameras, no, they're fine. We've tried them out, heat, snow, rain, no problems at all. Okay. I think that's it. All right, there's another one. I'm liking this. This is a bit of feedback. Tracy says, thank you so much. It's been helpful in planning. Thank you so much, Tracy. I appreciate that. And I'm glad that it has assisted you in some way. And I hope that the photos have just sort of helped you see what you can expect during that time of the year. All right, guys, I think that's it for my side. I am planning to do a webinar next week on very much similar to this, but more focusing on which safari experience would suit you. So sort of still going about the travel topic, but looking more in depth about the types of accommodation and experiences you can get in those particular reserves. So stay tuned for that. I'll let you know on the dates and times of that in the next few weeks. Next few days, sorry. Sorry. Okay, that's it from my side. I'm logging off. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you guys attending, and there's more coming up in the future. Till next time. Cheers.